Yo, this is Steve Bloom, and you're watching Moana Nui Podcast. We'll be starting soon. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
No math questions, please.
How many digits of pi?
No, don't even start.
I can do 3.141597.
History and like I could actually label a map of the United States.
Oh, that's a skill.
That I can do. I can label every state correctly. But
What
math.
is the world's youngest country?
Oh man.
Yes, ma'am. I knew that.
That. What you said. That's it. That was it. That's the one.
All right. Well, we'll get started.
I'm ready when you guys are.
Okay. Who would like to ask the first question?
Sure.
Mr. Allen?
Yeah. So I just want to start off by letting you introduce yourself and give your full bio or short bio if you want.
Well, my name is Greg Baldwin, and I've done quite a lot of work, and I've been lucky to work on some really cool franchises. But mainly, what I'm known as is the successor or the voice match for Mako Aramatsu, and that has truly been one of the greatest challenges and also one of the greatest blessings of my life. Because it's one thing to walk in and take over as the voice of an iconic character, but I was going in and I was also taking over for the voice of the iconic actor that voiced the iconic character. So that's always been the challenge to me, and even now I don't really like hearing my own performance in Avatar or Samurai Jack, because when you set it against Mako's performance, it's just, I still hear the difference. To this day, I listen to myself and I go, how did you ever get hired, Baldwin? You're going to get fired anytime. And it's like, no, wait, they can't fire you. The shows have wrapped. But, it goes through my mind.
So, did you ever have like a prior relationship with Mako? Like, did he ever guide you and say, hey?
No, I never had the opportunity to meet him. And that's frighteningly, the internet is sometimes wrong. I hope, because it says that I actually was his understudy, which I never met him. I did have the great pleasure. It was the second to last record of Samurai Jack, and I walked in to Cartoon Network and signed in, and I noticed that someone ahead of me had signed Mako. And I thought, well, that's kind of sick, but no matter. I went back to the green room, and I'm sitting there, and Gendy Tartakovsky, the creator of the show, says, Greg, come over here, there's somebody I want you to meet. This is Mako's daughter and grandson, also named Mako. They're going to be watching the recording session today. And I'm going, well, first of all, Gendy, I really wish you might have given me a heads up there, because it's one thing to do the voice of this iconic actor, it's another thing to imitate the voice of someone's beloved father. And so I am literally just freaking out during the recording session. And thank goodness, I'm situated where I can't see them on the other side of the glass, but Phil Lamar, who voiced Samurai Jack, was. And he said that the minute I started to speak, Mako's daughter leans back in her chair and just does this. And then after the session was over, I leave the recording booth, and she comes right up to me with tears in her eyes and says, thank you so much. It was like he was in the room with me again. And I always think, of all the things that I've done or will ever do, professionally or whatever, that I think is the most impactful. And I'm proudest to be able to do that and to give them a gift back in exchange for all the gifts that I've received. And I also, because you think about yourself, and I just think, man, what I wouldn't give to even hear a bad imitation of my father's voice again. And so that is as close as I actually ever got to Mako personally. Someday I intend to meet him, but not today. not for a while. We'll eventually get together, but give me a little time here, man.
So I don't want to hog any questions. Okay, so how would you describe like the process of learning like the voices to make sure that you were on par with the actor before you?
Well, again, it depends on the voice. I mean, Mako and Aku and Iroh are very, very specific because I'm doing a voice match. My approach sometimes, and this is actually something taught to me by my good friend Jeff Bennett, who voices Johnny Bravo, and I went to college with him. I know him very well. It's sometimes a good idea to start off with an impression of a character, of a known actor, because it's a good place to start out with. Eventually it becomes your own. And for example, I voiced a character in the Clone Wars called Terra Sanube. He was a Jedi. He's a very, very, very old Jedi whose lightsaber is in his cane. And this is the voice I used. But if you go back and you watch the first 2 Harry Potter movies and listen to Richard Harris as Dumbledore, you'll realize that's actually what I'm doing with the character. And I find, sometimes I think it's cheating, but I tend to think of it more as a shortcut. It makes it a lot easier. The character will become your own, but if you have a voice in your head that you can start out with, then you're ahead of the game, I think.
If you don't mind me asking, you've been pretty much been in the game for almost 14 years, and you've had the opportunity to witness how voice acting has evolved and changed and everything else. Are there any particularly notable changes as a professional that you've noticed in the field? Oh,
huge. When I first started doing it, I had to literally drive from my house in Burbank over the hill and go to my agency. I think it was on Fairfax at the time. So you would have to literally physically go there, go into their recording booth to audition. And that, more and more, that became, you simply audition from your home computer. But now, you don't even have, not only do you audition from your home computer, but most voice actors now have literal home studios as a result of COVID. So yeah, and it's a good thing, and it's great because I don't have to get on the road, I don't have to go anywhere, the commute is fantastic. But there is something to be said, for me at least, of being in the room with a voice director who can I'm not that imaginative, you know. I'm one of those actors, all actors want to direct. No, I don't want to direct. Too much responsibility. I want a director to tell me what they want. And I miss that, you know, because, and also when you're recording at home, there's a technical aspect of it that I've learned to do it, but I'm always terrified that, I'm on a show now for Disney called The Ghost of Molly McGee, and I record it from my home studio, and I'm always terrified that I hit the wrong button. You know, because I'm not a sound engineer, and they're gonna, oh man, we have to do the whole session over again, call everybody back. So that's another aspect, that voice actors now are sort of sound engineers as well. We didn't have to didn't used to be. But again, the commute, you can't beat it. You know, the commute is fantastic.
Do you have any advice for aspiring voice actors, people who are looking to either change careers or enter into the craft for the first time?
You know, it's a wonderful field. It's not the easiest field. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's hard to get into, but don't ever let anyone tell you can't get into it. You know, I was 46 years old when I was cast as Iroh. I was looking at 50. So if it's something you really want to do, first of all, persevere, and don't ever let anyone tell you can't do it. In terms of technique, it's good to learn as many accents as you can. It's good to learn how to do impressions. And I think it was Andre Romano, who's the voice director for Avatar, once said, voice acting, people say, I want to be a voice actor. The operative word is not voice. The operative word is actor. You have to be an actor. Voice acting is acting more than anything else. And in some ways, I think it's more true acting, because you are not, if I go to, I don't do a lot of on-camera, but I have. And if you go to an on-camera audition, usually they're auditioning for several different things at the same time in the casting office. And all I have to do is look for all the fat old white guys. And I know that is where I belong. That's where I'm going. But with voice acting, I don't have to be just a fat old white guy. I can be anything. I can be the literal incarnation of evil as an Aku, or I can be an old Jedi master, or that to me has always been the fun of it. Is my physicality has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it for anyone in voice acting. And in a way, it's kind of liberating, I think,
So on the conversation of like how pandemic has changed like voice acting, like So when you get like say like the size, right? Like, does the voice director give you notes, or do they give you notes afterwards? Because I know you mentioned that the ADR director's not there with you.
No, usually they will send me the audition, with the sides, with the brief description from, the client, and that's it. I record it, I send it back. I can do as many takes as I like until I'm happy with it, but no, most of the time, and that's what I'm missing. There's no voice, it's all on me with the audition. And it used to be there was another voice in that could guide you. Now you simply record the audition, send it off, and hope for the best. And then this is the hardest thing about voice acting and acting in general, is they never call you when you didn't get it. And so, you learn that, okay, it's been 5 days, okay, they haven't called, I didn't get that gig. And that it would be nice if they did it. So, thank you, well, I'm sorry, you were very good, but we're going to pass. They don't do that. They go silent. And I think with Avatar, and I had gone through like 4 auditions, and then it was another 3 weeks before they called me to tell me I got the gig. And again, I had given up on that as well. So no, it's been 3 weeks, I didn't get it, it's done, move on, although I really, really wanted it badly. And yeah, I miss the voice, I miss the booth director very much. Of all the pre-pandemic things that I miss, but there are many, but that would definitely be one of them.
Mr. Q, did you have a question, sir?
What is your big 3 for anime? Like, what's your favorite anime?
I will be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of anime. I've actually asked my kids, I said, because you know what, give me some things that I should watch. I mean, this is a weird answer, but you know what, I think you could absolutely say this is anime. I grew up watching this show called Speed Racer.
Yes.
If you ever watched Speed Racer, I think that was a very and I remember I loved the voice acting in that show. And I can do it pretty, remember Pops Racer, remember? Mm-hmm. I do a pretty good impression of Pops Racer, who always talk like this, okay, Speed! So yeah, and I guess that it was made in Japan, that actually makes it officially anime. Some things, my kids, I said, what should I watch? What was it? One Punch Man is something my son suggested, something that he thinks that I would enjoy. And I really should get into it more, because for the fan base, I should at least have a good working knowledge of it. But I'm an old guy,
A lot of them have like hundreds of episodes you gotta try to catch up.
Yeah.
So we have time for one more question. Do you want to be my last? Do you want to finish yours with you? You got one more, sweetheart?
What's one of your favorite lines from your voice work you done?
The favorite line?
Yeah.
The line that I can't really say without talking a little bit about Iroh himself and what a unique character he is, because not only is he beautifully written, but I have seen by meeting these fans the impact that he has had in people's lives. He really makes people, I say Iroh makes everyone a better version of themselves, all the way from Zuko to Greg Baldwin. And I remember this because my wife and I had literally moved to New Mexico, where I was born. The kids were grown, they were launched, and so we said, let's go move back and live in a chiller place. So we moved to New Mexico. 2 weeks later, the pandemic hit. So we're in a place where we didn't know anyone. We had left our friends and our home for 30 years in Burbank, and we're freaking out. This is in the days when there's no toilet paper, and I'm going, oh my God, we left. I've got a son in New York, my God. My daughter's in Pasadena, my God, what have we done? And I remember walking and with those thoughts, and I heard a bird sing. And clear as a bell, in my head, I heard Iroh's line, if you look for the light, you will often find it. If you look for the dark, that is all you will ever see. And from that point on, that line helped me through the whole experience. Just to remember, and indeed today, as bad and as bleak as things sometimes are, if you just look for the good things, you'll find that there's a lot more good things than bad things, and just don't dwell on them. And it's a conscious effort. You have to look. You have to actually look. It's a verb. It's an action. And that, I think, of all of my lines, that comes back to me again and again and again.
I think that's quite enough. You are a doctor after all. Always nice to see you, Watson.
So now we are going to interview Miss Jessie Flowers, and we'll get started. Who would like to ask the first question? Mr. Allen, you want to get started, sir?
Hi, my name is Alan.
Hi.
So I know you're gonna get a bunch of tough questions, so I'll just do something else. So I'm an actor and screenwriter as well. So I was wondering if you have any other like works you're working on as far as screenwriting or like short films that you can tell us about.
Yeah. So any projects related to kind of acting and screenwriting that I can talk about right now. I am currently actually in a screenwriting, well, not screenwriting, TV pilot, specifically writing class on the weekends. I majored in screenwriting, but writing for a film and writing for TV, a little different. So I'm trying to expand my capabilities a little right now. I actually spent some of yesterday during my lunch break pitching my new beat sheet for a pilot that I'm working on. So nothing finished, nothing pitched as far as the writing world goes, but still polishing, honing, because after I graduated I was focused mainly on acting, so the writing has been kind of coming back around. Hopefully that'll change in the next couple of years, we'll see. As far as acting goes, I am actually working on a video game right now. Can't disclose the full name, but it's familiar, people will know what it is. It's technically just redoing something that already exists, so it'll be familiar and is going very well. I didn't realize how big my part was until they were like, okay, send us your schedule for June, and I think I'm like six 4-hour sessions are like reserved, so woo, lots of lines. But aside from that, those are kind of like the main two big things, and then just regular auditions. Anywhere from 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 to sometimes up to 8 a week, which sounds great, but most of those will be no's. That's just how it goes. So yeah, auditioning, doing that one video game gig, doing things like this on some weekends, and then that writing class. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Sounds like you have a lot of things to be doing.
Yeah, and funnily enough, this is the lightest my schedule has been so far, because I finally said no to a bunch of other things, so I can focus on these.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Who has the next question? Mr. Adrian?
I was gonna ask, how has your experience been this week, this weekend during the convention?
How's my experience been this weekend at the convention? Well, I don't think I've been an official guest at this large of a con before. I think this is my biggest one, numbers-wise, and maybe, no, I think this one numbers-wise is the biggest. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. I've been to San Diego Comic-Con before, so I know like how large things can get and how crazy it can get, but I wasn't like an official guest with multiple panels and multiple signing sessions, so I was like a little nervous going into it, but Greg Baldwin is here, and anytime he's with me, we're like a con father-daughter duo. Like anytime we're together, we're like, somebody's there who knows our vibe, like we can get dinner and get drinks afterwards, and like de-stress. So then I was like, it's gonna be fine, Greg's here. So, but it's been fun. Aside from, the fun elevator scramble in the morning, that has gotten progressively more crazy. Just like, so funny. Honestly, everybody's been really sweet, everybody's been really nice. And as far as the space goes, I didn't feel overwhelmed at all because it's so huge. So everybody has so much to do. I was worried like it was gonna be like accosting because there's gonna be so many people, but there's just so much space. So everybody's kind of spread out, so it never felt particularly overwhelming. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Mr. Allen, you have another question, sir?
So I was doing a little research on you, and I know you do music as well. So I was very curious to know like what your stage name means, because I know you have like a bunch of different names that you kind of associate yourself with, and I know your music name is very different from So
props on you for doing research. Yes, I also dabbled in music. I mean, I've dabbled in everything. I'm in my 20s. You should do that. If you're like, this seems interesting, do it. That's the time. I mean, any time is the time, but it's easier, I feel like, in your 20s. So right before COVID, actually, I was in New York auditioning for musical theater, and I just really, in 2019, was like having this original music bug. I wanted to write, I wanted to like reach out to some of my producer friends and just create stuff. I've always had, maybe it's just always been inherently in me. It's fitting to be an actress. I had like an identity question mark. I'd never really liked my name growing up. I feel like people mispronounced it. My last name was different, so now I'm Michaela Murphy. But at the time, I was Michaela Mayhair, and so I would get a lot of like Michela Miager and like a Michael Meager, and I was so like, it doesn't sound pretty. I just had like a whole weird mental thing. So Jessie Flower, the stage name, I'm billed in Avatar and Meet the Robinsons, like all of that stuff, I'm Jessie. Because I was 6 and I was like, you know what the coolest name is? Jessica. And even cooler than that, you shorten it. It's Jessie, like it's short and it's fast and it's cool. So I was like, yeah, Jessie. And my mom's like, last name. And I'm like, oh. So I came up with the flower like the next day. She's like, this is going places. We're going to put it on things. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. Having no idea. And it is great, but then I turned 18 and I was like, this might have a little bit of a different vibe in certain contexts. I feel like this is no longer my actual personality. And for music, I like Halsey. It's like a pop artist, and she just twisted her name around, and it worked out because she's from New York, so it's like the Halsey stop in Brooklyn, but also it's just Ashley all moved around. And I was like, what can I do with my first name? And Michaela's like a little too long for one word, so I split it up. I found like Ace Hamill as like a split up of Michaela, just in a different order, and I was like, sure, that's cool. But then COVID happened, and I haven't really touched original music since then. I like kind of created a couple of songs with some friends, and then the whole world was like imploding, and I moved back to LA. I started voice acting again. Like all these things just happened. So I miss it. I want to go back to it. I'm not sure if I'm sold on the Ace Hamill thing, but that was the placeholder back then. So yeah, that's the journey of different names. I love having just different personalities to step into. I feel like people so easily lock into your one name and who you present first, and then that's how they remember you. And I want to be able to like put on a blue wig and go like perform with a rock band at midnight, and then people know me as that. And then I can also wake up and like talk about, I don't know, studying economics for this semester at Yale. You know what I mean? Like I just want to be different people and not have people be stuck on one thing. So I feel like the names are a way to try to separate it all, if that makes sense.
That's like Hannah Montana.
Yes, exactly like Hannah Montana.
Yes, Mr. Q.
How has anime affected your life?
It's changed it completely. Animation and anime, it's as we all know, has just taken on an entirely new life force, especially in the past 5 to 10 years. It's more accessible, it's more, if you talk to somebody on the street about it, they'll know what you're talking about. Before, it was just kind of this very hard to come by thing, and if you talk to, because even my grandparents know what it is now, right? Like there was never in a bajillion years, 10 years ago, known what I was talking about. They're still a little confused by what I do on the weekends, but they're starting to understand. But it's completely changed my life. I think it's a community of people, but also a space of creation that is just much more flexible than a lot of other areas of entertainment. And there's a lot more acceptance of just who you want to be, and anything you think of you can create. There's just room for that, and I think that's a very healthy space to be in mentally, which is great for life. And then being in my 20s when I'm like, what's happening? And it's like, yes, you can just be. And especially with Avatar going on Netflix, and then being kind of accepted by the anime community, because I know that Avatar is kind of a gateway anime. It's not real anime, but it's it's an honor because everybody's so sweet, and I just feel like, I don't know, the fans are the nicest. Nobody comes up and demands you. They're just like, okay, oh my gosh, I'm finally meeting, I don't know. I always use Twilight because when I went to San Diego Comic-Con, I think that's who was there that year. I feel like if you go up to Robert Pattinson, you're just gonna freak out, and people don't see him as a person, And I feel like here everybody's just we're all humans here because we love this stuff and being ourselves. So I don't know, it's just been really kind of eye-opening and a nice reminder, especially in the last couple years when so many things have been going crazy, that good people still exist and kind people still exist. And the fact that they want to see me, so many of them want to see me, is really, really cool, and I'm definitely not taking it for granted, because it's been very helpful in a very tricky time, so I'm grateful, for sure.
I have time for one more question.
Well, no, I was just going to ask a question, but we have one, after this question, we have time for one more. Okay. You brought up about the fans and of Avatar, The Last Airbender, and of that universe. And most recently, they got together and established the first con for the Avatar universe, Cabbage Con, that's going to start next year. What are your thoughts on Cabbage Con, and how do you feel about this new world of a convention just dedicated to Avatar and Korra?
Well, I think People have been clamoring for an Avatar specific con for a while, I think, and the fan base has been there, but there hasn't been a one common ground for everybody to necessarily meet on. And finally, they made like an official Instagram, I think in 2020, right? So then finally there started to be this kind of gathering. First of all, Cabbage Con, perfect name, incredible, brilliant, never been done before. We love it. I'm so happy that that's the name. And I'm, this is, I don't know, hit or miss, but Mike and Brian have always been very true to their word, their vision, and I'm just curious if that's something that they're like excited about, or something that they're like I can't tell, because like with Netflix, the Netflix live action, adaptation, they were on board, but then something kind of made them want to leave, right? So they're very like true to their core values of what they are into, what they believe, which is great. I mean, that's why Avatar is so amazing. They're like, this is the story, here are the 3 seasons, you're not getting anything else. Okay, we'll make something new, but we're not gonna like make a season 4, like they're just very true to their vision. So it's one of those things where sometimes I wonder if when I come to these things, I'm like, am I making them like mad? Like, am I exploiting Toph, or am I helping further the love? Like, sometimes I can't tell like what the balance is. So in that same realm, I feel like they would probably love it, because they're like, yes, artists gathering like creativity, like they love fan art and like the fan love around it. But in another sense, I wonder if they're like, just, consumerism, blah, like I can't tell. But I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'm excited to see if they're going to be pop-up versions, or if it's going to move, or if it's going to stay in one place. Yeah, I feel like we should have already had like an Avatar theme park. I feel like that should already exist. So
there's a Peppa Pig theme park.
Yeah, there's a Peppa Pig theme park. I mean, there are already 3 rides at the Mall of America or something that are kind of Avatar themed. So yeah, I was like, well, we should already have that. So Cabbage Con, yeah, we're ready for it. Let's go.
I'm gonna put my oldest son on that. He wants to design theme parks.
Wow, that's very specific and perfect.
He's a mechanical engineer, so he's the one you want to do that.
Yeah, but I think I trust him.
I'll hook y'all up. All right, one more question, Mr. Allen.
So I know you, like I mentioned before with your screenwriting, I know you did a short film called Nostalgia. So I was wondering if, what kind of stories do you like to tell? Or if you want to talk about nostalgia, that's cool too. Like, what, like for you, like as a screenwriter, like what kind of like genres and stories do you like to, share with our audience?
What kind of stories as a screenwriter do I like to tell? You've done your research, sir. I created a short film in 2020. Gosh, timeline. Yeah, it was 2020. It was September of 2020. My goodness, time flies. And I did that because I knew it wasn't going to be perfect, and I grew up, as many of us probably did, under the guise of however well I did, whatever, the better grade I got, the better received I would be, blah, blah, blah. That's not how art works. You need to just do and try, and then you'll be like, all right, we did the thing. Next time we're gonna get better at this, this, and this. So I wrote something that was very familiar to what was happening right then, close to me, that sort of thing, just to get the practice in. It was kind of just coming of age, summer during COVID, a couple friends coming back after being separated after college, that sort of thing. I think deep down, I really like kind of historical fiction dramas like Queen's Gambit or like Bridgerton, where you take something and you twist it and just make it, relatable to now. That's kind of what I'm working on at the moment, and I feel like that's just where my brain lives for the music, the fashion, the colors of that decade, like I kind of live in those more colorful, well, it's not that today's very colorful, but I feel like I live more in a past kind of trajectory for how I like to tell my stories. I also like thrillers, but I feel like I like very mental, like psychological thrillers, which just take a different kind of thinking, and you have to be really smart about it. And I haven't even tried writing that genre yet, but I feel like I want to try it sometime in the future. So yeah, that's kind of where my brain lives. And Nostalgia was just like a 10-minute, crank it out, get the experience, shooting, editing, finding a color grader, finding a friend to do original music, like just doing the hard steps. And I was like happy with it. I was like, it's cute. It's not amazing. I'm like, that's okay. So very much a learning experience for like the process. Yeah.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.